This is the new right-of-way. In the US, e-bikes are starting to become a main form of transportation. From adults to teens, they're dominating the recreation world. But this is what you may have seen.
Crash caught on camera. An
Middle school students are injured in an e-bike crash.
Tonight, more kids are getting hurt on e-bikes.
Can e-bike deaths be prevented?
However, it's more complicated than this.
Either the legislators didn't know what they were doing, or they knew what they were doing and they don't want people to ride e-bikes.
That's how much money these companies would stand to lose.
And I get it, these roads are built for cars, and bike lanes are definitely an afterthought.
If you look at how they categorize the data, they overrepresent what is an e-bike as opposed to these motorcycles or motor-driven cycles.
I get to the emergency room and the emergency room doctor says, "Oh, you had a bike accident?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "E-bike?" And I said, "Yeah."
And now they're everywhere. I mean, you see more of them than regular bikes almost.
So yes, the United States has built its infrastructure over a century to accommodate the automobile, but if something better comes along, why not abandon it and build it again?
All of these bikes have motors, but are they e-bikes? Or are they e-motos? And why does it matter? In the United States, we have a 3-class system of e-bikes legally allowed to ride on the roads and bike lanes without any extra hassle. A Class 1 e-bike means that the electric motor is only engaged when the pedals are turned. The max speed with the motor is 20 miles per hour. In a Class 2, it can also only get up to 20 miles per hour. But in addition to the pedal assist, there's a throttle, meaning you can engage the motor from the handlebars. In a Class 3, it's a pedal assist bike with a top speed of 28 miles per hour. For all 3 classes, the motor may not exceed 750 watts. And then there's e-motos.
There's no other, the term e-moto is so new. Nobody knows what a motor-driven cycle is or a motor-assisted bicycle. It's just, e-bike is this umbrella term when legally it is distinct from most of these other devices.
This makes understanding, legislating, and enforcing the current class system exceedingly difficult. There are some key differences from e-bikes. Operable pedals are not required, although many create fake bicycle pedals. The power of the motor is often 1,000 to 6,000 watts. That means the speed of the e-moto is often 30 to 65 miles per hour. They are typically throttle only. They require, in most states, a license and registration. They're considered a motor vehicle, a motor-driven cycle, and are not legal on the street unless registered and licensed. The consequences of e-motos being labeled as e-bikes have already taken effect. A 3-part investigation done by the nonprofit People for Bikes found that the source of the misidentification problem starts with manufacturers and trickles its way down into news headlines. According to the report, these companies will intentionally mislabel their devices as e-bikes when the motor is above 1,000 watts, can go above 28 miles per hour, or can easily be jailbroken to ride faster than designed. E-motos, like the Sur-On, have been widely marketed on social media to teens and young kids. not as a transportation device, but, as People for Bikes reports, lifestyle products.
Yeah, that thing looks sweet, bro. That's a good size for it. It's our first time. It's your first time taking it out of the dirt. How's it do on the road so far?
It does good. It does like 36.
Reckless or out-of-control riding is often what leads to states and towns creating harsh regulations for all e-bikes, when it is typically e-motos, the devices that ride out of the legal limits, creating the issues.
Probably go around 30 miles an hour. Maybe a little, maybe 32.
This is Brant Olson. He's been building his own motor-driven cycles since 2018.
But then I also built a couple of them that have a 72-volt battery with a 2,000-watt motor, and that thing gets around 45 miles an hour. It's pretty fast. Probably wouldn't be what I would call exactly legal. You know, if I'm on a bike trail or if I'm riding the bike path next to the street, I'm very mindful of what's going on around me and not acting inappropriately and speeding and things. I just don't do that at a pace that a person riding a regular bike could keep up with, 5 or 8 miles an hour, maybe 10 miles an hour. I just enjoy the ride. It isn't about the speed, really. I like the aesthetics of it. I like it to look like a motorcycle, but I don't ride it like one necessarily.
But he also understands how e-motos can ruin the experience for everyone.
I kind of wonder if that's going to change because I'm seeing a lot of guys riding those, what I call e-motorcycles. They don't have pedals and they go 50 miles an hour, and young kids are riding them inappropriately, and it's drawing attention and getting, negative response from, I guess, neighborhood people. It bothers me when I see that. And I think that if it gets worse, I do think the law enforcement will probably get involved in that like it is in other cities. But right now, they don't do much at all, if anything. I've seen a couple motorcycle cops in my neighborhood that have been out doing traffic duty to look for speeding cars, and I literally rode my bike up to them and talked to them. Would I be surprised to see some sort of enforcement? No. Would it stop me? Maybe, because it's going to be pretty hard for me to get my bikes into something that would be legal. So if that happens, I don't know. I'd either be riding illegally or I'd be not riding.
On the flip side, teenagers wanting to ride e-bikes is being seen as a good thing.
I also think part of the reason that cars feel like this symbol of freedom in America is because we have a design of our cities and towns that requires a car to be able to get around. And e-bikes in general kind of give those kids, whether they're 16 years old or younger, that freedom to get around and hopefully form a lifelong habit of not relying on a car.
The e-bikes, I'm not gonna lie, they are faster than motorbikes too.
Hell no, you better run moped.
You've been out of the system long enough, you can look into the system from an outside perspective and be like, this doesn't make any sense at all.
Either the legislators didn't know what they were doing, right? Or they knew what they were doing and they don't want people to ride e-bikes, right? I wager Jersey has a lot more urban areas, right? You got Jersey City, you got Hoboken, which I lived in for a while, Newark. There's a lot of areas where you can get by with just e-biking, and I'm sure there's a lot of people living there who don't have a driver's license that want to get around with an e-bike, and now they have to legally get a driver's license, and they have to register with the DMV, right? So they have to register as a motorized vehicle.
On January 19th, 2026, New Jersey's outgoing governor, Phil Murphy, on his last day in office, signed into law what is still today the most restrictive e-bike legislation in the United States. Under the law, every e-bike operator must obtain a driver's or motorized bicycle license, annual registration, and liability insurance. Riders will need a license plate, must be over the age of 15, and it applies even to those bikes that are off-road only, like e-mountain bikes or e-dirt bikes. This legislation is confusing, prohibitive, and targets e-bikes that were not the source of the safety issues that were stemming from e-motos. Instead, it places undue burden and financial restraints on e-bikes that have been legal as is up to this point.
So there's all these restrictions are being advertised as being for people's safety. A lot of like safety. It's like keeping these like dangerous bikes off the street, and they're legislating them, and everything's going to be like safer, and now you're going to have insurance for your bike, and you're going to have, it's not just really limiting the e-bike as speed or power, but it's just limiting the number of people that can use the e-bike. And I think a lot of it is less about safety and more about just pushing people into cars. If you look at how the laws are written, there's the things that would be more like common sense safety things for an electric bike in a city, or in this case, a whole state, are just not talked about. It's just a way to kind of legislate them off the streets entirely. When you're not in the automotive system anymore, I've been pretty much out of it for a very long time, and when you first start biking, you first get your electric scooter and you're whizzing around, you're like, this is so great, this is really amazing, and I'm like, this is so wonderful. And then honestly, after a while, that becomes kind of normal, and then I found that after you're out of that system for a long time, you just kind of realize that the system is really terrible. And I think a lot of the legislature, a lot of our culture is basically just kind of desperately keeping people in that system. That's how much money these companies would stand to lose, like that ubiquitous advertising and lawyers for, ads for lawyers, ads for insurance, ads for car mats, is Super Bowl ads. It's such an industry, and if you get out of that, you can see how ridiculous it all really is. So I don't think most of our laws are written by legislators anymore. They're written by lobbyists, and I don't know which lobbyists are responsible, but I'm almost certain that some lobbying group is responsible for this legislation, not any safety committee or anybody who's concerned about people's safety. If there's any legislation or any kind of project that will reduce traffic, kind of no matter what the circumstances are, anything that reduces traffic, like cities will spend millions of dollars to do studies of how to reduce traffic, and it is never implemented or half implemented. Adding a lane on a highway will make things worse, and everybody knows that, and everybody's known that for 20 years, and then it's done constantly still. At this point, it's obviously not. That's not the goal. Reducing traffic is not the goal. Increasing traffic really is the goal.
Just here where we live, we see a bike lane, but then we go further down on the same path, the bike lane disappears. We go from a 3-foot wide lane down to maybe 8 inches wide, And I get it, these roads are built for cars, and bike lanes are definitely an afterthought. There are still people who think that bikes shouldn't be on the roads. By law, it's like bikes and cars, they share the roads.
The law itself in Connecticut is not very friendly to cyclists in that it mandates that you stay on the road at all times unless there's an obstruction. which studies show that you taking the lane and being in the middle of the road is a lot safer, especially if I'm going like 25 miles an hour. It's not like I'm holding up cars on these roads too much.
So part of the issue with feeling safe biking in the road, it comes down to speed, and it comes down to how closely you have to ride with cars. Having protected infrastructure is obviously the gold standard to making sure all of our infrastructure is safe and accessible to anyone who wants to use it. But that is a slow-going process. So often it is one major thoroughfare that is 4 to 6 lanes, and speeds are all going super fast, and there's no shoulders. There's nowhere that bikes or e-bikes are designed to be, and they're just kind of allocated to either riding on the sidewalk with pedestrians or riding on the road, which can be very terrifying. Not a lot of drivers are accustomed to driving with bikes and sharing the road in that way, and a lot of bikers very understandably don't want to put up with that risk. So the key to unlocking this ridership potential and actually getting people to be less dependent on their cars is to make networks that get to key destinations that are low stress for everyone. My litmus test is, like, would I be okay? Would I feel safe if I had a kid on the back of my bike? Is that a trip that I would feel is worth making on a bike? And if it's not, then it's not a good connection. You don't just need protected bike infrastructure to make these low stress connections, because that can be hugely expensive to do, especially on these main thoroughfares. But there's a lot that communities can be doing on a quick build, lower costs scale of investment. Like in Burlington, we just lowered the downtown speed limit to 20 miles per hour. You can do traffic calming, like curb bump outs and speed humps that really get cars to respect the speed limit, or even go lower than the speed limit in these key areas. And it's less of a pivotal, transformative change than a protected bike lane would be. But those sorts of small changes do add up over time and change kind of the culture of the use of those roads, where people are suddenly realizing that it does feel safe to make that 2-minute journey down to the grocery store along these roads. And it just takes, honestly, the political will from your local elected officials to stand up and say, this is something our community prioritizes.
And they did it with a charge of dynamite, one wing at a time. Here goes the first wing. Here goes the other half of what hundreds of guys and dolls...
You know, we destroyed downtown areas that were full of charm and life and excitement, and they were just paved over to build super highways in the middle of cities. No one else has done this. Europe didn't do this. So what are the lessons? Historically, like, let's demolish and rebuild again as better things come along. And that got me to thinking that what infrastructure in most people's minds is like, well, we have this, let's use it. But that is a fallacy. It's called the sunken cost fallacy. Sunk costs are those things which you build and you kind of are committing to continue using, even though there's something better along the way. So if I gave you a treasure map, and on the treasure map X marks the spot, and you start digging, you go down a couple of feet, or you know, and then, you know, I show you, oh, wait a minute, you got the map upside down, and I tell you that no, you've been digging in the wrong place. Now, the sunk cost fallacy says that, oh, wait a minute, I've already, you know, dug 3 feet, so might as well keep going because I've already committed to digging for 3 feet. And the fallacy of it is me agreeing with you that let's keep digging in the wrong place because we've dug so far. So yes, the United States has built its infrastructure over a century to accommodate the automobile, but if something better comes along, why not abandon it and build it again? I think we've done it twice over. Now, we've also done it with aviation, we've done it with shipping, not anymore, right? So we were willing to toss all the investment we did in the shipping infrastructure and rebuild it according to containers. We did that for railroads, we did that for canals. And airports, another story altogether, where we built on, a whole new terminals and whole new infrastructure for that as well. So I don't think the United States is afraid of rebuilding itself. It's just a question of enough people realizing that there's a better alternative.
Information on a deadly fire in the East Village that left 2 teenagers clinging to a pole trying to escape the flames.
Fire investigators now believe e-bike batteries caused the fire.
These fires are only part of the story. E-bikes have lithium-ion batteries, just like in your cell phone. They are subject to certifications that ensure they will not overheat, catch fire, or short circuit.
And so the mechanism that is concerning is on a lot of these unregulated, uncertified batteries and devices. They lack kind of the safeguards that protect the device from overcharging or over discharging, as well as the capabilities to shut down the system if they detect a thermal runaway or damage to the device that could lead to a lithium-ion fire. We see the misclassification of these devices a lot in how they're reported by the various fire departments across the nation. We took a look at the Massachusetts fire department's data sheet for the lithium-ion fires that they had received or responded to in the past year and a half or so. Of around 195 lithium-ion fires that the State Department responded to, 35 were classified as micromobility. If you look at how they categorize the data, they overrepresent what is an e-bike as opposed to these motorcycles or motor-driven cycles or any of these other classifications. And then within what could reliably be called an e-bike, which ended up being 3 devices or so, only one of them had a UL certification.
The standard certification, UL 2849, ensures safety of the battery, wiring, and charger. More expensive e-bikes typically have the UL certification, while cheaper bikes, under $500, do not.
I see cost being a significant barrier to entry for a lot of people, because you can't really get a cargo e-bike for less than $2,000, maybe $2,500. With that said, I don't think the solution is super cheap e-bikes. I'm sure everyone's gone and seen something, a clip on the news of oh, this e-bike battery exploded in the parking lot one day, but those are not high quality e-bikes or e-bike batteries.
Though cheap batteries may be the problem when it comes to fire safety, how are the more expensive UL certified batteries alleviating the risk of fire hazard?
We only work with certified companies. Battery safety treatment is very important. So you don't want to store your bike all winter in the barn outside. If you do that, you need to take the battery out of the frame. If that's not possible, because some bikes have an integrated battery, you would have to take the motor off to get the battery out, then I would recommend trying to find a place where it's above freezing. And you have to also look that the battery has a certain charge, so you cannot run it empty. If you start riding again, don't charge the battery every day. Check. If you know you do the same route every day and you have, let's say, 30% left, then I would go and charge it overnight. But then also don't leave the charger plugged in. Floating batteries and burning houses in New York City, that's probably because people leave the battery plugged into the charger.
This is one of the fastest growing modes of transportation in our cities today. You might know it as Moby, Lime, Bixie, City Bike, Bird, Spin, Divvy, Indigo, Metro Bike, or a number of other names, but they all fall under an overarching category called shared micromobility. These are services that provide lightweight vehicles like bikes and scooters for rent throughout the city.
Capital Bike Share in particular it's a station-based bike share system, but the e-bikes are hybrid, so that offers greater flexibility. And of course, the SMDs, they are dockless vehicles, so they are able to be parked and rented wherever throughout the county. Most bikes, especially like with shared micromobility, they go up to 20 miles an hour, which if you have a decent like carbon fiber road bike, you can easily go that fast without any sort of e-assist anyway. So when it comes to speed in that regard, there isn't even like that big of a difference. It's going to be more of like the level of effort, and allows people who are maybe wearing like office attire to be riding at that speed. And we do definitely encourage utilizing e-bikes and e-scooters in bike lanes, on low top speed streets and trails and such, versus riding on sidewalks where they tend to be narrower, you have more pedestrians, and of course on sidewalks, pedestrians always have the right of way. When it comes to helmets, we definitely recommend it, but like I said, it is not required. That is consistent with state law here. So there actually isn't any state law specifically saying that you need to wear a helmet at a particular age, but the state does allow localities to enforce their own if they so choose. In Arlington, that restriction is up to 15 years old. So if you're 15 or younger, and of course cabbie is only able to be used by those 16 and over, you are required to wear a helmet. Capital Bike Share does offer helmets for purchase for a low price through the website.
For a while, when I was living in DC and New York City, I didn't even wear any helmet because I was using the like renting bike, like city bike, right? And I thought to myself, well, I'm just a casual rider. I'm only going a few blocks. I don't need a helmet. So a few years ago, I realized that was really stupid and bought a regular helmet. And maybe now down the line, I'll buy a full face helmet.
We call it geofencing, so we have the whole system area where you can ride. If you leave that area, you will get a notification saying, hey, go back, you're outside of like the permitted zone. And if you park the bike outside the zone, you get a fine.
So for our scooter operators, whenever someone is parking their scooter or e-bike, users have to take a photo of that in a ride to show where it's being parked, to ensure that it's being parked in a compliant manner. And our operators are getting better at using AI to be able to automatically detect whether or not they're parking it correctly.
Accessibility nightmare. How am I supposed to get past this? I'm a wheelchair user and I came across these line bikes in the middle of the pavement on my way home from work. I know that the pavement looks flat here, but there is a step down onto the road, so there was no way I was going to get my chair onto the road. And if I was on my own, I'd be completely stuck. Luckily, my friend was with me and was able to move it. But please, if you're using these line bikes, stop parking them in the middle of the pavement. Many people need to use the pavement and need to get past, and it's just an accessibility nightmare. Thank you.
For each report that comes in for, as an example, an improper parking case, those automatically are routed to the operator that they select. So if they see like a scooter from a particular operator in the middle of a sidewalk, someone in a wheelchair can't get by it or anything like that, they can report it through the system. It'll automatically route to the operator. So it doesn't require me or anyone else to send it. It's not like a business hours only thing. Someone can send it in the middle of the night on a Saturday. It'll automatically route to that operator. And by their signed permit agreements, they have to remedy that issue within 2 hours.
So a lot of people, let's say, don't have cars, don't have easy access to transit stations or whatever. They just don't have a lot of options to move around. So something that we do in many markets is having a leasing program where people pay. They have to qualify for it, of course, but let's say they pay
$10 a month and they have their own bike. People are just scared of it. It's e-bike, it's electric, it can, for older people, it can be like, you know, intimidating, but getting that conversion I would say could be kind of one of the hardest things. But as soon as people download the app, it's the best thing. Like, you get them riding all the time.
Awesome. Whee! Okay, guys, I have no idea what the traffic rules are. Stop here on red. Okay, I'm stopping. How do I stop? This is so scary. It doesn't tell me how fast I'm going. Does it? Yes, I'm going 10 miles per hour. God, it feels really fast. There's cars behind me, like I am definitely causing traffic right now. Ah! I'm so scared. It keeps telling me not to ride on the sidewalks, but I'm straight up not riding on the sidewalks. This is so funny. I'm just gonna keep riding straight because I'm so scared to make a turn. So I've just been riding straight. Ooh, there's a bell.
We've looked at how e-bikes can help speed up and ease transportation. But what happens when e-bikes shift from being a privilege to a necessity?
I mean, I was stuck in the house. I couldn't do anything until he got home from work. I have early onset dementia, as well as a stroke that I had, and I can't balance a bike anymore. And so I was kind of stuck in the house because I can't drive. I needed to start physical therapy, and there was no way he was going to be able to get off work, you know, in the middle of the day 3 times a week to take me to physical therapy. So we got a trike, and I absolutely love it. I needed to go to CVS, pick up medication. I need to go to my physical therapy, and my doctor is even on the trail. You know, there's mobility scooters, sure. I don't want to look like I'm 80 because I'm not. And, you know, it's absolutely changed what I can and cannot do, and I love it.
So I've been an amputee 50-something years. I took up bicycling again when I turned 40. And for 16 years, I just rode plain old non-assisted bicycle. And then my husband and I went on a bike and barge cruise to the Netherlands and Belgium, and I couldn't keep up with the group. So they sweet-talked me and gave me a discount on renting an e-bike so that I could keep up with the group. It was not the first e-bike I had tried, but it was the first one where it was comfortable and I liked it and I saw a benefit.
There are many people in situations just like Sarah. Enough that there are companies centered on creating bikes that change what bodily autonomy looks like for individuals when it comes to mobility.
We like to think that we can basically take anybody could walk through our door and we could get them on a bike. So that's, you know, people with spinal cord injuries, maybe they've had an event like a stroke, cognitive disabilities, or any variety of ability that would challenge your balance and make it so you wouldn't be able to ride a two-wheeled bike or recreate in a different way. And what we do for the most part is use a platform like you see on the bikes behind me, which comes from a variety of different brands around the world. For the most part, we use Haza. And what we can do is option specs onto these bikes to help folks with, limitations in range of motion on a leg, an arm. They may have, an inability to use one of their hands, something like that. So we can use a variety of different pedals, grips, seat belts, whatever it might be, to make that person able to pedal in the best way possible. For the most part, bikes that go out our door will have an e-assist on them, unless specifically the person doesn't want it, or in a lot of cases we work with like the VA who might not fund something like that. So it is need-based in cases, but for the majority of people that buy one of the bikes that we offer, they will option that e-assist on there. And that's anything from just giving them a little more range, giving them a safety net for if they get tired and can't pedal back up the hill at the end of the ride kind of thing. And then, based on the disability that we're talking about, it may just be a necessity to actually get the pedals to turn over in the first place. So there's a huge variety of reasons and different types that we might talk about, but I would say, 75% or greater of the bikes that go out our door would have an e-assist on them.
If I have an individual that is a quadriplegic and really doesn't have the ability to grip, or doesn't have the ability to take their hands off, the hands are fixed with aid to the hand pedals so that they can move, or they might be able to only move in a short stroke. So our knowledge and being able to fit and to dial that in is a lot of where our magic comes from. And e-bikes have really allowed us to do automatic shifting, automatic cadence sensing, automatic speed control, where we don't have to think about it. We can say, this is all I got. This is the only amount of movement I can provide, and I need to be able to go down a bike path.
It's been really cool to kind of see the folks that we can help become active again, and kind of an interesting way to learn about the recreation therapy world, and a whole lot of the world of disabilities. I'd say kind of the most impactful certainly has been working with the world of like cerebral palsy, kind of learning more about that disability and how broad of a spectrum of people that can cover, and seeing the freedom that, whether it's a bike, a trike, a running frame, whatever it might be, the level of freedom that can give to somebody who's, a lot of cases with cerebral palsy, we have folks coming out of a power chair, and then jumping on a frame runner and running around a track under their own power, which is really, really cool to watch.
I am the owner of Haley Tricycles in Philadelphia. We build vending tricycles, cargo tricycles, some non-electric, a lot electric assist. A lot of our customers use the tricycles in particular because they can kind of meet people where they are and meet people in parks and farmers markets, kind of go places where a lot of other vehicles can't really reach. And there's also a lot of, because it's a human-scaled machine, there is a lot more just kind of friendliness and socialness. It's a much more social vehicle. It draws people in a lot. It's also unusual, and that helps a lot with getting people's interest. They'll see this unusual, kind of old-fashioned, kind of steampunk-looking thing. We've built A lot of tricycles for libraries around the country that will use them as little pedal-powered bookmobiles to get into parks and events where a traditional bookmobile won't go, but then any librarian in the library will be able to load the tricycle up with books and blankets and folding stools and have a reading event in the park or visit an elementary school in their town.
I'm really proud to be a librarian, and I believe in the magic of libraries and what we bring to people, so I really wanted to show that off and in a fun way. You guys can choose any book that you want.
This custom-made book bike is a conversation starter and the creative way Ednita Kelly connects the community with the job she loves.
It has been remarkable to us how like freeing it is to just bike around everywhere and be able to just stop on a dime, not worrying about parking, put your bike right there, lock it up, go into a shop, right? Or, kid says, what is that tree right there? Stop, let's go see, right? You can't do that when you're driving around in the car everywhere. It insulates you from like the environment that you're in and puts you in a little bubble. And it's even worse for kids because, their POV on the world is like, if they're still rear facing, it's a headrest, right? That's what they look at the entire time they're in the car. Or if you put a little mirror up there, maybe they can see a little bit of like, orange, but you can't be like, hey, those clouds are really cool right now. Or look at that sunset. Or oh, do you see that person, like walking their dog? I've never seen a dog quite like that. Or man, they're wearing a really silly hat. Like you can't do any of that, right? It's this barrier that you have between yourself and your family and like the outside world. My mother-in-law's biggest fear in the whole world is, driving somewhere and not having parking. Like she would actively not go places because she didn't want to like get there and not have a place to park.
It tends to need three parking spots for each car for in an urban environment. And that means one at home, one at work, and usually one in a shopping mall. But there are places in the US where there's 11 parking spots per car. By the way, the US is about 800 cars per 1,000 citizens or residents. So we're talking about what's called a motorization rate of 0.8. The only other countries that come close are Australia and New Zealand, and everywhere else it's below 0.5. But one of the hidden costs of this is that the carbon impact, just of manufacturing the concrete necessary for so many roads, goes straight into the atmosphere.
The spread of concrete just used for parking spaces in the United States takes up more land area than the entire state of Massachusetts. Despite restrictive legislation, there is precedent for e-bikes to stick around.
In countries where scooters were banned, people bought scooters, people use scooters. They're illegal still now in China. You can't have scooters on the road in China. But most of the scooters in the world are made in China. Most of the scooter companies are Chinese. This is the paradox. So it's one of those things that will evolve over time rapidly. It'll define for itself its own market, and it will probably decide. One of the things will also change is like what people do with it. It's maybe not for commuting. It's maybe not even for shopping. It might be used for recreational only for a while, or it might be used by teenagers. And even though the people want to ban them from doing so, they'll use it, and then they'll use it together with their friends. So again, humanity is just going to find a way forward through this. And I'm not too worried about the things that are happening day to day as far as like, rejections or objections. Again, all that happened before with automobility, all that happened before with every other technology we introduced. the idea of micromobility is that it allows us to figure this out, because you'll never get there by car. It's not for everyone. It costs you not just in the physical vehicle, it costs you, like we talked about, in land, real estate, pollution, health, all these other factors. That is to say, you'll never get to that future with the car because it's too damn expensive.
E-bikes are here to stay. But to make a lasting impact, we need thorough legislation, widespread education, and community engagement to ensure they are the new right-of-way.